How is palm oil business even more profitable than cement companies, banks, and other big businesses? What are the opportunities in the palm oil business? So welcome. Today we have Mr. Ikechukwu. He's an agripreneur in Nigeria, and today we are going to be discussing a lot of interesting stuff. So who is Mr. Ikechukwu and what do you do?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ikechukwu Kingsley Amajui. I am from Abia State, Nigeria, and I run Penelink Resources Limited, and is an integrated palm oil processing company. So we have our flagship product known as the Care Foods palm oil brand, which as of today has presence in 6 cities across Nigeria, and we're making inroads into the diaspora markets.
As a young person like you, most people would think, okay, you could have been a banker or working in an oil firm. Why do you choose to produce palm oil of all things that's available, of all the opportunities in Nigeria?
My journey in this sector is one of curiosity. I am an analytical chemist by profession, so I practiced for a bit. I had a stint with Chevron, then it was out of curiosity. So I was in a conversation where people said that the palm oil industry is comparable to the oil and gas industry because of the products derivable from palm oil. And, out of that curiosity, I, delved into it initially just as a research, and I found it really interesting and, latched onto the opportunities available in this space. And I've been doing this now for 5 years. It was just born out of curiosity.
I saw a news the other day that the top most profitable business in Nigeria, even ahead of cement company, oil and gas companies, 2 companies are on the top of the list, which they are palm oil companies. So what are the opportunities in the palm oil space in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. I think that particular article does not do justice to some parts of the story. It's not the whole story. So these are the advanced palm oil processing companies in Nigeria. Now, these companies are research. So these companies have invested heavily in research and technology, right? So they have the best seed technologies, they have the best processing, and they actually do everything end to end, really. So they run integrated operations, so from the farm to the palm oil, to the byproducts, to the refined products, to also upcycling the waste. So they generate revenue from multiple sources. And really, that's one beautiful thing about palm oil. Palm oil is a commodity of multiple sources. So you can earn multiple incomes from just one fruit. And that's an amazing thing about the fruit. So about the commodity. So to say that they are the most profitable, that is true. And it is just mostly because they've invested heavily around research and technology. So, yeah. And I don't think any company in Nigeria does 50% net profits. So they have proven that it is by far the best industry in terms of performance. So that's why they are very profitable. But so I'll let you lead the conversation. So I wouldn't want to jump the gun because I know you might want to ask something.
Yes. I want to ask something because what came to my mind was probably because they supply other businesses, because most businesses, let's say food business or snacks business, might need their products and they are the main producer of those things. That was why I thought they were profitable. Is that not the case?
Okay, so like I said earlier, the palm fruit is an interesting commodity. So just imagine with me that you purchase a single line of input, and from that input you have 4 valuable products. The first is palm oil from the outer shell. You have the kernel nuts, which is processed into palm kernel oil, which you know today as vegetable oil in several forms like King's, Spa oil, Mamado, and the rest, right? They are refined from the base product, which is crude palm kernel oil. And there's the palm kernel cake, which is used as a feedstock for feed formulation for the livestock industry. And then there's the PKS, palm kernel shell, which finds application in refining operations and also in the export market. So just imagine deriving 4 different products from one single line of input. So that speaks to the profitability of the business and really the commodity itself. So that's what makes them the most profitable company. Leveraging just one single line of inputs and making the most out of it.
Whenever I enter a supermarket and I see all these Kings, Mamador and all that, but you can't find a popular brand that produces palm oil, because palm oil is our main focus now. So why do you think that's the case? Why don't we have Mamador palm oil or something like that? Is there anything there?
Yeah, so just like I said earlier, Okomu is doing great in that space. But you know that modern trade channels, is a niche market. Yeah. So when you want to talk of brand popularity for a food brand, it's always about their performance in the mass market. So Okomu oil is not a mass market product. That is why there's no rave. You might see it, you might not know that the same company that you quoted as one of the 2 most profitable companies owns that brand. Or the Okomu oil is owned by the Okomu Palm Processing Company. So I think it's called Banga oil. But the thing now is that because a vast majority of Nigerians shop from the mass market, that is why you would not typically find that brand in the mass market. And that's where we come in. Just permit me to just speak to, how, so we studied the value chain, and we understood that is where we can capture the most value in the mass market now. So modern trade would be your typical ShopRite, Spar, Ebano, Market Square, Blenco, depending on where you are. So, those kind of shops. Supermarkets are modern trade channels. Then the mass market would be depending on where you are, Shangotedo Market, Okearin Market, Ariaria Market, or wherever you are in Nigeria.
Like local markets, right?
Exactly, the local market. So you find that according to a statistics by MBS, over 70% of the Nigerian population source their food items from the open market. So yeah, so that was the reason why, that was what led us into trying to identify the gaps in that market for healthy, nutritious, and affordable palm oil. So you find that what you find in that space mostly, and according to a report by NAFDAC, is mostly adulterated. In fact, according to that report, 4 in 5 bottles of palm oil that is sourced from the mass market is adulterated with Sudan 4 dye, which is cancerous. And people don't know this, and testament to that is that many people are beginning. There are increasing number of cancer-related deaths in recent times, and 35% of those deaths can be attributed to what we eat, and bulk of that can come from consuming unhealthy palm oil because it is heavily adulterated with Sudan 4 dye. So by adulteration, I mean they take the original palm oil, right? They mix it with some dyes. So it's called Sudan 4 dye. The azo dye that they use in blending it to make it appear more attractive. They mix other things to increase the volume, basically. So the first thing is to increase the volume so they can make more out of it, right? And then use the Sudan 4 dye to mask whatever they've mixed it with so that it appears. So unknown to most of them, that sharp practice exposed people to cancer because Sudan 4 is cancerous. It has been banned by IARC. I don't really remember the full meaning of that acronym, but it's a body responsible for regulating the use of additives in food.
Interesting. I did not know about that before. So, you mean so now for your own products as KR Foods, you are focusing more on the mass market. That is, if we go to our local market, we should be able to find your products. That's what you mean. So, does that mean you don't actually market to the supermarkets? And is there any reason for that?
Yes, at the moment we don't market at the supermarket to the supermarkets. The reason being that first there's the issue of SOR, right? Sales on return. So because you are a relatively unknown brand, right? Supermarkets would typically treat it as, oh, okay, we are taking a risk shelving this product. So we have to pay you after 45 or 90 days. But distributors in the mass market will pay you even before they get their products. You get the difference now. And then secondly, that is where the critical mass of the population source their palm oil from. So sourcing from this, mass market now, requires you to position to address their need. So it's in our future plans to get into modern trade, but we want to first of all capture more value in the mass market.
So I want to go in depth into how profitable the business is. Now, let's take, for example, a 1 liter palm oil bottle of palm oil. What does it cost you to make, and how much do you sell? What's the profit margin like, so that people can know, is this business actually profitable the way the newspaper are portraying it?
Like I said, so when it comes to profitability in palm oil production, it's not a straight line. It's not a linear thing. So it's a factor of the level of investment in technology and research. Now, in terms of technology, which is the primary concern for every practitioner, is what is the quality of the seedling that you are cultivating, and the second part is what is the efficiency of the processing technology. Most of the mills you find in Nigeria, palm oil processing mills you find in Nigeria, lose up to 50% of the extractable palm oil from the palm seeds due to the low level technology that they use. When you want to talk about profitability in palm oil, it requires significant investment in those two technologies, the seed technology and the pit. So there's no straight line to it. A lot of people have been deceived in the past into believing that there's a straight line metric where you can say, okay, X number of palm fruit bunches will yield X number of liters of palm oil. But in reality, it does not translate to be so. So oftentimes people have had their fingers burned, without the fundamental knowledge of what the differentials are. So say a company like the two giants, Presco and Okomo, like you mentioned, everything is weighed from the start to finish. So everything is on a weight-based relationship. But in the local operations, you'll find that everything is around, I would want to say, a qualitative analysis. So you see a palm fruit bunch, they are not all the same size, right? And then you buy them, you buy the bunch, and then you process. So one day you are getting 10 liters, another day you're getting 15 liters. So there's no empirical pattern. There's no pattern for you to come to an empirical conclusion in most cases. So over time, we did our study and we were able to, ratify that for our business. So at the moment, we can say that our margins are anywhere between 200 to 250 naira on our value-added products. So a bottle of oil goes for 1,000 naira for the 75 cl. So we make about 250 naira as our margin on that.
That's before removing other expenses apart from the cost of goods sold.
No, that's inclusive of every production cost, right? But excluding the OPEX, right? So everything that contributes to every activity contributing to transforming that raw material into a finished product, as they would say in accounting, cost of sales. Yeah, so the gross margin is around 250, but palm oil is also a game of numbers. So it thrives on economies of scale because the business architecture is a low margin, high volume architecture. So
That's about 25%.
so that's about gross. So, however, that's not the entire story. So we add value to our kernel byproduct. So, and that's a different conversation altogether. Yeah. So for the sake of the listeners, I wouldn't want to, put everything all together. So I just mention the fraction that involves the palm oil, which is the most popular amongst the other activities across the value chain. Yes.
Okay, for anyone that wants to start this business now, where can they start? Let me just put it that way. So do you advise them to say, okay, let me start farming, let me just carry my cutlass and everything, go to the farm and start farming? Or should they just start with buying the what's it called? The palm kernel stuff from farmers and then they process it? Or what's the best approach to this business since you have the experience?
Okay, so from my experience, I'd say the best approach is to start the cultivation now. But the barrier to entry into that space, depending on the magnitude of your operation, is very high. So there's the cost of land, cost of seedlings, cost of maintenance. And the gestation period is about 3 to 5 years, right? It's about 3 to 5 years. So you require patience. But the beautiful thing about it is that after the 3 to 5 year period, it continues to yield month on month for 30 years. So you have a transgenerational investment in that regard. However, most people enter into palm oil at two stages. First, they want to come in as processors where they buy inputs from suppliers and then thereby saturating the market and then increasing the pressure on the scarcely available inputs. So that in recent times has driven the cost of inputs significantly by over 350% in the last 3 years. That segment is saturated right now. Another segment that is also becoming very saturated is the speculation, where people go into the rural community, buy palm oil in bulk in season and stock it up and sell in the off season. They make significant returns on it, but that space is also becoming very saturated. So as more rural farmers get more market information to sell their products to more sophisticated value chains, all of that will begin to change. So the risk propensity in that regard is very high, because if you're also not knowledgeable in grading the quality of the palm oil, you might end up buying palm oil that is of low grade, stock it, and at the end of the day sell it for little or less than what you bought it for. So those three entry points are the basic entry points, but the most recommended would be to cultivate palm. So, and to cultivate palm, you have to cultivate the best seed technologies available. And those kind of seedlings can be found in NIFO and other good verified vendors. So, but to buy a good seedlings, you have to, contact an expert, particularly from NIFO. NIFO is the Nigerian Institute for Oil Palm Research. They are not paying me to do this marketing for them, but I have made it a personal ambition to make sure that if anybody must come into this space, they have to come in and be profitable from day one. I want to be able to give them opportunity to learn from our mistakes. You don't have to learn from your own mistakes again. Other people have made those mistakes in the past, and in the time past, people were not very liberal with information. But I've made it a personal ambition to make access to information into this space very, very available and at an affordable rate.
So why do you recommend the NIFO seed? Is it that other seeds are not really productive or something?
So the thing is that getting seedlings from NIFO extension officers comes with a guarantee that they will be able to support you with every after-sales support that you need. So you can buy seedlings that are sterile. You can even buy seedlings that are good quality seeds, but you are not planting them on the recommended soil types. It can also be that you bought good seedlings, but you are not applying the right fertilizer or in the right doses, or you are not carrying out a good agronomic practice, all of these factors can lead to, low performance or low yield or sterility in some cases. So the tree just grows vegetatively but becomes sterile eventually. So by sterile, I mean it's not able to fertilize and yield fruits.
Nigerians are not actually patient. They want something they can do now. They don't want to wait 3 years to plant something and grow it. So is there any alternative to starting your own farm from scratch? Is there any alternative to speed up the process?
Well, it's unfortunate that we're in a community where trust is a scarce commodity, right? I have been an advocate for cluster milling initiatives. By cluster milling initiatives, I mean I have 10 million naira, you have 10 million naira, and we have a pool of people with same amount, and we can go ahead and say, okay, let us work with a group of farms and say, okay, we have this capacity to build state-of-the-art processing mill, right? And we get into an offtake agreement with this big farm to offtake. That way you get into processing, right? As a group. But you find that everybody wants to own their own processing mill. And with 10 million naira, you can set up a decent mill. But unknown to many, those locally fabricated mills, and I am for growing the naira by supporting Naija brands. But let's call it what it is. Our local technologies are not yet sophisticated to handle that. So I would say instead of us going it individually, if people can come together to build processing mills, I think they'll be more profitable in the long run, even in the short run.
What are some pitfalls for somebody that just wants to get the palm kernel seed, the palm kernel, what's it called? The bunch from farmers. Yes, from farmers, and then process it and then sell it. What are the pitfalls?
So, like I've consistently mentioned that the kind of technology you have is the first pitfall that you face, right? Then, because the transaction is mostly qualitative, spot buying, where you see bunches, they are not willing and you buy. There's a danger in that the yield might not be consistent, right? And it then turns out to be a gamble. The other part of it is lack of knowledge and the general pitfalls that people face coming into this space. The type of milling technology they have, the species of seedlings that they buy, the species of the inputs that they largely, and then lastly, the processing technique. So those are the three major areas. And then, yes, I forgot to mention, given this myriad of challenges, there's a likelihood that the cost of processing that palm oil, and that is the major reason why there's heavy palm oil adulteration. The cost of a 25 liter of palm oil is very high, so high that it should be sold for minimum 35,000-40,000. So because they cannot sell at that price, they adulterate so they can make ends meet. So, but if you can, so value addition avails you the opportunity to control the price. So those are the areas where I think, one has to work around. So we all launch palm oil brands, right? But we can market discovery to find the best market that gives us the best value for what we produce. So I think from the operation side, I had highlighted that. It's also important that I highlight it from the marketing and sales aspect.
I know you use your own method by planting your seed and every other thing. But the other side might also argue that if you plant your seed, you are limited to what your farm produces. And what if you exhaust your farm produce? How do you get the basic material to process and fulfill your demand?
I will share from my own experience, right? So we have a video documentary of our process, and it has had massive reviews and hits. done over 32,000 organic views. And one interesting thing that happened from that channel was someone reaching out to us, they are requesting for 1 million leaves of oil monthly to be exported to India. The truth is, today you can't easily find access to that volume of the volume of input required to meet this need, because, like I mentioned, the barrier to entry into processing is very low. So with your between 3 to 10 million naira, you can set up a decent mill, right? So everybody, imagine with me that in maybe 10 years ago, people milling in a community, and then fast forward to present day, and there are 30 people milling in that vicinity, but the farms have not increased in size. Imagine with me what will happen. So that is the risk in more with more entrants into the processing segment of the value chain. So I always encourage that the way to go is backward integration. And we've learned that lesson ourselves, because as our brand is growing, there's also a stress on a demand for our product, and also is a stress for a demand on the input rather. So to address that issue, we've identified some plantations that have been that are ailing or underperforming. So what we do to those farms is to recondition them. So as an alternative to planting, you can identify farms that are not performing optimally. You can obtain them on lease, recondition them, and that's, and that can serve as a remedy to, plant cultivating new trees. And then it's a regenerative model anyways, but it depends on the availability of such opportunities within your space. So it's a peculiar case. Okay, so I think the best way around it is really to inspect the farm. How we nominate farms to obtain on lease is by, following the historical information where they exist, yield of those farms, and as against what should be the optimal yield. That's the first thing. Where no historical information is, we monitor those farms by indicating interest to purchase from them. So that way we have information on the yield of those farms. So that is the first step. So when we've identified the yield of those farms, there is a standard metric. The standard metric is that a hectare of palm plantation is supposed to produce an average of about 15 tons of palm fruit bunches per year. So you can break that down into months and take an average. So if the yield is performing below 5 tons per year, and you can come to that average over a specific period of time, you take that average, you can establish that fact. And the best times to do that is between January and April, when those are the peak months of palm oil production. So if at those peak months they are not delivering optimum yields, expected yields from those plantations, then you can go further to identify why the yield is low. Could it be that there is poor fertilizer application? Could it be that there's poor pruning? Could it be there's poor weeding culture? Those are the things you have to look out for. If those are the primary reasons for the underperformance, then it's a good palm to lease, because it's just basically, the farmer knowing the right things to do. Then coming in and doing those right things. Of course, you must make sure that you tie them to a contract, because people can get funny. Like I said, we're in a community where this is very scarce. So everything has to be well legally documented. So we've in the past, we've had instances where, we had lease agreements revoked abruptly, and, we suffered some losses, tried to, drag a few sessions in legally, but we were advised to just drop it. So it makes sense to, from the word go, enter into legal lease contracts.
I've even experienced an instance where, it wasn't directly where someone took a place on lease, did the pruning, the clearing, and all the other things. As soon as the yield improved, and the original owner of the farm then realized that he wanted to come back into the business, and it was a very sad story. what the person had to do was to compensate him for what he spent on it, which is not fair, because also that the cost of that fund has been eroded, it was not captured. Yeah. So, those are some of the challenges in leasing existing palm plantations.
So on average, how much does it cost to lease a farm? Just on average, I know the price might be different from region to region, but on average, how much does it cost to lease a farm?
So it costs on average 10,000 per hectare, 100,000 per hectare, sorry,
So
to lease
that's
a
per
farm.
year, right?
Yes, per year. So on average, the cost is determined by the quality of the plantation. Is it performing optimally? Is it performing averagely? Is it performing below standard, below the average? Those are the decisions that prompt whatever final price you come to. But and
So
also I want to mention that it varies region to region, from region to region.
so for you, do you do the plantation? Like, do you manage the plantation yourself, or you have a farmer you have on contract that help you manage the plantation?
Okay, so we hire harvesters, experienced harvesters to manage the farms for us. Of course, occasionally we have to invite experienced agric extension officers to inspect the leased farms, because when we invest on those farms, we want to be able to get the best professional advice to ensure that we get the return on that investment. Okay, I wanted to mention that we are currently negotiating for a 350 hectare plantation. So before the end of the year, we should close out the contract.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's interesting.
Okay.
So for because you have been mentioning a lot of big projects now, for a new entrant that just want to start the business, how much do you think is enough for them to start?
Okay, so there's no straight answer to that. Yeah, in that depends on where you want to start. So if you have available land, for instance, and you want to cultivate, that solves more than 50% of the problem. The cost of land is taken out, and then all you have to do is get your seedlings, get the fertilizer, get the manpower to do the planting, and then you maintain over the period. So you can have your seedlings in the nursery for a whole year, and then transplant by the second year into the actual farms. That is if you want to cultivate. So someone can set it out as a retirement plan. Say I have 5 hectares. I plan that over the next couple of years, as I'm working, I can be developing my farm. And in that time, in you think 5 years is a long time, but it just gets by, even before you know it. So just gradually planting it without pressure. I think that's the best approach. The investment can be a minimum of 2 to 5 million as a minimum, and a maximum of billions of naira, depending on the scale of the operation. But there's a huge opportunity in kernel production. So because most of there's a pool of smallholder farmers with local mills that generate kernel as byproducts. It provides them an additional source of income. One can start to aggregate those kernels and process them. They are processed and sold to kernel expelling companies. Fortunately for us, we do everything end to end. We produce palm oil and then focuses on aggregating the byproducts. There's a huge opportunity in that. Like I said, there's also opportunity in speculation, where you buy, store, and sell later. But that is not a sustainable model. So what I'm preferring here is an opportunity where the person coming in does the business and is also able to get significant returns and have additional income from the kernel shell byproducts. Because that's beginning to get significant attention. Companies like Olam, Dangote, and many big industries use it as an alternative to fossil fuel to power their furnaces. So there's opportunity in that. So I would the least place I will advise anyone to put money down on is to set up another palm oil processing mill. I'm careful to use the word another. I'm deliberate with the use of the word rather another, because you don't need to drive a mile to find a palm oil mill that has packed up, because they were buying inputs at very exorbitant prices. The yields were below average, and then they pack up simply because they are not able to meet up, simply because they're not able to sell whatever is they've extracted to a premium market that counteracts the effect of the losses from the processing. So I would strongly advise against anyone going into that space for now, unless you are getting the best technology. And even when you are able to get that best technology, do you have the farm size that can support that investment? If it does not exist, the best thing to do is to go into cultivation.
So for someone that's cultivating now, so do you advise them to use a third party processor to cut down on cost of let's say building a new processing plant themselves?
Yes. So I can harvest my so so in our organization we provide something I call the cluster milling service, where people can bring their palm fruits to our processing mill. We have it is a closed group, right? So it's not just free for all. So it's a closed group. They have access. We have time allotments to them when they can come in and process their, and it gives us an opportunity to take their kernel byproducts from them. Sometimes we're even able to find markets for their products. So you can find someone looking for maybe a corporate client looking for maybe 500 liters of palm oil. You can easily link them up, and and they take it from there. So those are some of the value that we provide for these farmers. And of course our milling technologies, are significantly above the available ones in the market. So they have more yield, up to 25% more yield compared to what exists normally.
We've been talking about the operation side of things, the production and every other thing. Let's just talk briefly about the distribution. So let's assume you have your palm oil ready. So how do you get your palm oil to the hand of the customers?
Okay, so as of today, we distribute our palm oil through distributors in the mass market. So, these distributors, they have their own redistribution channels. So that is what I can speak to. But I know that it's an age-long business, right? It's as old as Nigeria itself. I think one of the foremost merchants was the late Colonel Ojukwu's father. He was the first person to drive a Rolls Royce, and he was a palm oil producer. So that tells you how far back palm oil business dates in Nigeria. Now, merchants come to the farm gate to buy the oil, and that is where you get the least returns. They buy at the lowest price possible. So one has to identify a market you want to serve. Some people identify corporate clients like hotels, restaurants that they can sell to, and they can derive value from there. So it boils down really to what you identifying your ideal customer, so that it is palm oil, yes, but try as much as possible to decommoditize it through value addition. Again, not everybody, value addition might not be getting it into 75 cl bottles and all that. It could be to get it branded in 25 liters and sell it to hotels. So trust me, it's a whole different conversation when you want to go down that route of having your product in bottles. There is a lot at stake. There's SON, there's NAFDAC. There are several other regulatory requirements that has to go into it. And for a starter, it's not advisable. So it's a fancy thing for most people. They fancy that, oh, we have a brand that is doing so great. We have distributors that do as much as 300 cartons per month, particularly in places like Shongotedo Market, around Surulere, and then some places in Abuja, in Jos, and and Port Harcourt as well. Okay.
Continue.
The allure of having a palm oil brand, some people would say, oh, guide me, I want to set up a palm oil brand. And I tell them, it's not a walk in the park. It's not really a walk in the park. So instead of targeting that market, why not try diaspora markets? I mean, a lot of Nigerians are migrating to the Japa syndrome, as we call it, so it's creating a satellite market for Nigerian products. And if you are doing an informal exportation, by informal exportation, I mean a small quantity, you don't really need to have all those certifications, right? Because it's an end-to-end transaction. You are selling to someone in maybe UK, Canada, or US, and the person just wants a 4 liter, so you don't need all the certifications in the world to do that, since it's an informal export. So it's only when you get into the commercial scale export that you now have to get your certifications. So it's a good place to build up traction and then grow into all those things. It's good to have those ambitions, but starting small, you have to also think around what is the lowest hanging fruit for the brand.
So how do one identify all this distributor?
Okay, so we have a marketing team.
Okay.
We have an experienced team that does our marketing, and you first of all start your customer. Interestingly, I'll be speaking at an event at the startup weekend on customer discovery. And I think it boils down to you understanding first what value are you delivering. So we all know it's palm oil, right? And everybody uses palm oil. So who says that palm oil is only used for eating? So palm oil accounts for 50% of products you find in shelves in supermarkets all over the world. There are soap makers that need palm oil. You can identify them and sell palm oil to them. There are businesses that do other stuff with palm oil. There are refineries that refine palm oil into vegetable oil products. You can sell to them as well, but that's where it gets tricky, because there are quality parameters that you have to meet, quality standards that you have to meet to sell to that category of customers. So for every segment you want to get to, understand first what are the demands of that demographic, of that consumer segment, and then know how you have to now craft ways to position to get acceptance. For us, the first thing we did was education. So we would send teams to the open market to educate them on the dangers of consuming harmful palm oils, give them samples of our palm oil to try, and tell them and convince them that the only way you can sell this thing confidently is if you've used it, and you can allude to the fact that this is the best quality palm oil available in the market. I make bold to say that most of our customers have become very great fans. And to wrap that up, I would tell a brief story about a customer who bought the palm oil for her personal use. We don't know her from anywhere. She recommended the palm oil she sent a complimentary sample there. The person tried the product and placed an order for 11,000 units of the product. So it boils down to identifying who your market is. If, as far as you have the quality that addresses their pain point, you can make a fan out of them. And I say this for any product, not just specific to palm oil or any agro commodity, any product whatsoever.
So for people that don't have the let's say 2 million is small and it's big. For people that don't have that kind of money, is there any opportunity to sign up as a distributor with your company and say, okay, instead of me going into the production and going through all this stress, can I distribute other products, and what are the things that they will need?
Yeah. Okay. So for first time distributors, so they can actually start off with that amount, right? They can start off with that amount, and the interesting thing is that we reward performance. So by that I mean that if they consistently meet our minimum order quantity for starters within the first 3 quarters of becoming distributors, they earn a 1% rebate, 1% of the total value of the transactions we've had with them for that quarter. So it's an incentive that all seeks to reward their performance in trying to make frequent sales. So I did not, for the purposes of not trying to market on your platform, I chose to be silent about it. But that's an interesting opportunity that people can latch onto.
So what's the minimum order quantity for a startup? Like, say, let's put it on a monthly basis.
We give concessions to people, particularly in states where we don't have presence. That's only where we do that, and the minimum quantity we do for that is about 750,000 naira, and they have the liberty to choose the goods of their choice.
So I have a very, very curious question. Why do some palm oil smell?
Okay, so it's a combination of multiple factors. First, there's a concept known as top shelf rancidity. Big grammar. My background is in chemistry, so I will try to explain it in layman terms. So when you produce palm oil, it comes with associated water. So that water, if not taken out of the system, if the water is not removed, or I'm trying to avoid using the common term drying. So because it confuses people when you tell them you are drying a liquid. So that concept is actually removing water, dehydration of the palm oil, removing water from it. So when water is not removed sufficiently, it leads to top shelf rancidity, in that the water molecules begin to react with the palm oil, and it easily builds up the free fatty acid content, and then it can lead to the pungent smell. It could also be from the grade of the palm oil. There's the grade 1 palm oil, which is the one that is milled fresh, and then there's the one that is called the fiber oil. So the fiber oil is a byproduct. I wouldn't want to go into the process of it, but it's originally has a smell, and it's used to make these local soaps. So, but oftentimes you find that some people, especially the merchants that sell these products in the mass market, they take that fiber oil, mix it with the fresh oil, mix it up, add other things to it, and then blend it with the Sudan 4 dye. So that is where the adulteration actually comes from. So when you buy the oil, you notice that over time, when you open it up, it starts to smell. So I think those are the two things I know that leads to the quality of the palm oil originally, if it's not adulterated, or if there's water in it. So if there's water in it, it will smell and it will foam.
Okay, you were talking about having your products in some states. Which state and which state do you have your products? Where can people actually get the products?
Okay, in Lagos, they can find it in Shongotedo Market, somewhere around Surulere. Then we're trying to get into Okearin Market. I think that's Idumota. Abuja, it can be found in Gwagwalada area. In Jos, I've forgotten the name of the market, but it can be found in Jos. It can be found in River State, Port Harcourt, River State. In Benin, it's can be the distributor in Ibadan is not currently active. I think the person is out of the country now. So and trust me, we've been getting insane interest from customers who have used the product in that space. So we are open to having conversations with anybody willing to take up the distribution in Ibadan, and then in other places as well.
So do you have any sample of your products beside you there? Okay, that's the big sample.
Yes, the 3 liters, and this is the 75 cl. So there's also the 1.5 cl, but that's not available here now.
So on a closing note, what advice do you have for anybody that wants to start this particular business?
So like any other agricultural endeavor, palm oil, coming into the palm oil industry, one has to invest in knowledge first. Get as much knowledge of the industry as you can. Understand the challenges, the pitfalls. Trust me, anybody watching this does not know what you've done for them. You've given them access to free resources, that were not available many years back, right? So I will advise that, as is common in every other sector, data leads every decision. So should it be also in the palm oil sector. In any agricultural endeavor, let us seek to get enough data to back our decisions as we go, to make more profitable decisions. Yes, thank you.
So where's the I know I said that's on the closing note. So where's the best place for people to learn?
So I think the best place for people to learn is online, and a blend of online and from the local knowledge. My learning journey has been a blend of learning, consuming articles online, particularly journals on advanced farm economies like Indonesia and Malaysia, and also blending that with the local knowledge. Trust me, you can learn a lot from the locals. So they know these things, they can explain them, but they cannot explain them empirically to you. Okay, why does this happen? Why does that happen? But they know that if you do it this way, you might not be able to get the result that you need. If you do it that way, you might not be able to get the result. So a blend of online and the local knowledge. So the blend of that will help you to find a balance in this space. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much for joining us on this session. I really appreciate it. I've been learning a lot of things myself. So I did not even know people mix things with palm oil to make it look more look reddish again. So thank you very much. Is it also okay for me to leave the link to your contacts in the description of the video, so that if we have anybody that wants to order or wants to learn more, so that they can reach out to you?
Okay, so I will send you a link to our YouTube page. That's always the first place we'd like to engage them, then build up from there. So they can reach us through any of our handles as well.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.